The smoothie threw you off. I'm sorry. The margarita threw you off.
No, it's a tequila smoothie. What's going on, Average Joes? This week we are talking about margaritas and books that we like the setting or the vibe of. So when we were coming up with our drink ideas, I knew I wanted to do a margarita for something. And I couldn't really think of a specific element of a margarita, but whenever you think of a margarita, you think of places that you would drink a margarita. Because there are plenty of bars and restaurants we go to where we drink something else and I don't even consider getting a margarita. But then there's the places where as soon as you walk in the door, before we're sitting down, you're just counting down until you get your margarita, just because it's that type of setting. It's just that environment. It's either outdoorsy, it's going to be, probably a Spanish or Mexican restaurant, a tequileria, something. It is that vibe, that setting. And that's why I thought it was like, well, it just kind of goes with it. Margarita setting. So books with good setting that we like. That's what we're going to talk about this time. I'm not going to break down or talk about margaritas much. I'm not going to show footage of making the margaritas as well, because funny enough, on my last one when I can look at the analytics on my side, whenever I put in the video or talked about the drink and showed it as me making the drink, there was a drop in like people Xing out of the video. So I guess people just don't want to see making drinks. So I'm not going to show making drinks, and a margarita is a margarita. However, these are a bit of a Frankenstein margarita situation going on here because tried to do something new. We had avocados and peaches that we had to eat today. And we thought, well, since we're doing margaritas, let's just throw some tequila in with it, a blender, see what happens. And it didn't turn out too well. So it's basically a fruit and fat smoothie with tequila. All right. So books that we like the vibe, like the setting. Just thinking about books that either you've read and have looked back on and thought about being in that setting, have enjoyed the setting, would go back and read another story in that world, in that setting, because you've enjoyed it. That's the kind of margarita mindset, I guess. Margarita mindset, man. Like I need to coin that or something. So, you want to kick it off? You just revised your list, so let's go with it.
I've got so many books on my list now.
There you go.
So I can't imagine not having Harry Potter on this list, because
it's kind of a given.
Not just Hogwarts, but Hogsmeade.
Mead? How's that margarita working out for you?
Hogsmeade.
Well, I mean, when we go to Universal, we would just hang out there anyway. So that's like the obvious answer, because we would go around in the areas. Diagon Alley was our favorite because we would get ciders there and they had a picnic table. We'd sit there and the train would go by, and it's an awesome environment. And the other one there, Hogsmeade, there wasn't as many places to go, but the Boar's Head, that was really cool. Yeah. Boar's Head Talks, they make their own cinnamon whiskey there. We never ate there, but
the cinnamon whiskey and the cider, and it's good.
That's a great place to hang out. So those, I mean, you can kind of do it in real life, but continue.
Yes. So I think Harry Potter is an obvious one. Another, I feel like obvious one would be Narnia. So I haven't read all the Narnia books, but I have read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And I loved it. I thought it was a great book when I was younger.
I'm pretty sure I've never read it. I just only see the movies, but I'm pretty sure everybody has a point in their life where you're just like, you know what? I'm gonna walk in this closet. I wish I was somewhere else.
Narnia doesn't seem like a bad place to go.
I don't know. I don't know. There was a war going on. There's creatures and stuff. I don't know much about Narnia.
I think it would be magical and amazing. So I have those two, and then along the same lines of those, Keeper of the Lost.
That was the first one I wrote down.
That world. I
think it's just a given middle grade series have to be environmental, because that's probably the only reason why kids would read it, for escapism. Keepers is really cool because the way they describe the environment, the colors, they travel by light. They have all this detail about the food. Like the food just sounds ridiculous.
Everything tastes amazing.
Yeah. There's all kinds
nothing that's bad.
There's all kinds of magic. Nobody needs or wants for pretty much anything.
I would drink a margarita there.
I'm pretty sure they frown upon that because it's like a toxic. I mean, they frown upon meat consumption there.
Well, so all of their food seems to be, I don't know about meat, but
no, they like, at times I was reading it, I was like, is this author vegan? Because they take some jabs at meat.
I never noticed.
The elves are like, oh man, all the humans, they eat their meat and poison their bodies and
I don't remember
these
that.
things.
But I do know that like all their vegetables from their garden taste like something phenomenal. So like a vegetable tastes like a dessert.
Yeah, they have all kinds of desserts, like everything.
Everything, dessert, everything.
All right, yeah, same lights, same thing. Mine, it's kind of segues from the Harry Potter one. This is very specific, very niche, but I think going to school here would be really, really cool. I think even just visiting or doing something there, but the campus and the school of Truly Devious.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's a very exclusive school, but
Yes.
they have like super nice old dormitories that are basically like a Hogwarts-esque castle in New York. I think it's in New York, somewhere in that area. And it's just super nice.
In the countryside. I think it's Vermont.
Yeah. I think that's right.
It's Vermont on a mountain.
Northeast, either way. Yeah. The school owns the entire mountain. So they have the entire mountain, and then all of the secrets that are uncovered. And it's a
because it was a mansion.
Yeah.
It was owned by a rich guy.
Yeah. And they turned it into an
donated it to a school.
Yeah. So only like couple dozen people go there a year or something like that. So very exclusive. That seems awesome. All of the secrets that happen in the school are really, really cool. I think it'd be fun to discover them all. Yeah, very environmental read. It's an awesome one to read going from fall into winter because of the environment, and the mystery was fantastic anyway. I talked about it a couple times, but yeah, mystery's great. And that school, it's like a real life Hogwarts school environment.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that book. And yeah, the environment was definitely something I could sit back and like just chill. My next one would be a new ad, would be Spellslinger, which I just started reading that series.
It's
by the same guy that
wrote Spellslinger, yes, yeah. Sebastian de Castell.
Yes.
Great.
So I read the first 2 books in the series, and they're fun reads. They're short, they're easy. I believe they're YA. But they're entertaining, very entertaining. Some moments where I want to laugh out loud because the main character is ridiculous. But they have magic, and they live in what they call the Oasis, and that area gives them magic. And there's a whole lot of like darker stuff that goes into it, but the actual like area where they live, it seems pretty cool and very laid back. And they just basically all they do all day long is learn magic. That's it. That's all they do. Outside of the Oasis, maybe not so much, but the Oasis, I would drink some margaritas there.
I guess that's the idea of the Oasis. This one has its ups and downs, but I guess everything with risk comes reward. And that is the hypothetical future that is the Ark of the Scythe. They've conquered death. It's kind of like Utopia. They've conquered death. You can do basically whatever you want. You don't even have, it's kind of like they don't really need to work, but they work for something to do because since they conquer death, they just can reanimate you every time you die at a certain age that you want. Having that freedom to kind of do whatever you want and
not have to worry about the consequences.
And that lifetime is extended a lot. However, you could get gleaned anytime for any reason, depending. So there's that risk reward. You see a scythe coming down the street. If you didn't know, Ark of the Scythe is a futuristic, like Utopia type world set in ours in the future, where the population is controlled by these scythes, and it's called gleaning someone. And when that happens, only a scythe can actually terminate your life for good. Anything else, if you die, you can go jumping off buildings. They're actually called splatters. They jump off buildings for the thrill, and then they reanimate the corpse. The only other way you can die is by fire or being eaten. And yeah, basically sides have their quota. Each year they have to clean a certain amount of people to control the population, and then after that, other people can have kids. So really, you can't really have kids, because if you add to the population, then somebody else has to be subtracted from the population. And every site has their own process to
Gleaning.
for gleaning, however they want to do it, and they have to meet a certain quota. So yeah, there's a risk reward, but there's the limits are pretty great, and you can either live life to the fullest like it's its last. You can do whatever you want because you won't die consequences, or you can kind of take it piecemeal, day by day.
That reminds me of the main character's best friend, who his occupation was party boy.
Yeah.
So what he did his entire life was party. That's what he did. That was his occupation, being a party boy.
Yeah, I forgot why that was a thing.
So my next one would be Pride and Prejudice, my favorite book. It's not so much like, so it's England, the rural portion of England, but it's not so much like where they are, but the time period, right? Because we talked about this in one of our other videos, in that time period where you get up in the morning and you do your house calls, and then you
this is just
have
time travel,
breakfast.
basically.
Yeah. And you go to huge parties, and your life basically revolves around social calls and that kind of thing. And I think that would be really fun. And they drink so much back in those days, and they read a lot, and
they have their butlers and their maids. And,
yes. Yeah. And obviously, like, a woman's life back then was not amazing by any stretch of the means, but I could have a margarita back then. Maybe not a margarita, maybe like
I don't think they would do that. Yeah.
A whiskey.
Just like
but
whiskey, sherry, wine, brandy. That's the kind of thing. I don't think women drink whiskey. You're not allowed to.
And the Alienist, the chick, she drank whiskey.
Yes, she was also like very different.
A detective, a female detective, which is also not a thing.
Yeah, she broke borders. Yeah, I mean, I would love to go back to that time period. There's always going to be its own struggles with that time period and just living in the past without certain technologies and luxuries, but it's kind of a cool environment. I mean, so it's kind of funny because even though it doesn't go along with margarita technically, we love going to speakeasies.
Yes.
Going back to those, and I drink my whiskey and such. All right, my next one, space exploration. I think it's really easy. I mean, a lot of sci-fi can just be like this, but it seems like it's the best ones to go into are technology, the one that you don't have or own. But for some reason, I just really like the world of The Expanse and just those sci-fi type settings of you have your ship, you have your crew, and it's like, all right, we're going to go to this other planet, even if it's just like you're delivering stuff or whatever it is, and you're out in space for like 2 to 3 weeks. And even though it might get claustrophobic stuck on a spaceship, it's still like you're in a spaceship going from planet to planet. I just think it would be really cool to have that sort of capabilities. And then you go to these spaceports, and these spaceports are just these sprawling cities of all kinds of bars and restaurants and things going on, and different races and all kinds of craziness. So I think a space exploration, having your cabin on a spaceship would be really cool. You might not feel that way because you kind of do that in real life, but on a ship. So, I think a spaceship might be a little bit.
I don't know that doing it on a spaceship and doing it on an actual ship would be very different.
Yeah, probably not.
I think it'd be very much the same. However, if you could drink on our ships, because going on a cruise, not so bad.
Yeah.
That's fun. Going on a deployment, not so much.
Well, I mean, this wouldn't be military. This would just be your own private thing to if it takes you 2 to 3 weeks to get from a planet, then it's just, hey, that's your time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like a cruise, but like
it's kind of like a cruise.
You're just a mobile home.
Yeah.
Doing whatever you want.
I
just think it'd be cool. You're in space. Everybody might get old just because you're just seeing stars and stuff all the time, but
you get to go to different planets.
Yeah.
And experience the experience on the different planets, which is like, on a ship, you get to go to different countries and you get to experience those different countries. So it's kind of like the same thing.
But on a solar system.
Like a larger scale. Yeah.
And less rules.
So not as bad.
Yeah. So that's mine, space exploration.
So my next one was The Invisible Library. So we talked about this before, but it takes place in Victorian England.
Well, it's portal fantasy.
But it's portal fantasy, yeah. So
I don't even know when it does take place.
It takes place in Victorian England. That's the mainstay. But in the first book alone, they go to Prohibition Chicago. And then they also go to Revolutionary Paris. So they go to so many different eras, and basically you go into this library, and the whole point of the books basically is they're trying to get special books from these different eras. And so they have to go to these different eras and these different times and these different worlds to collect all these books. And they wind up going to Prohibition Chicago, which would be amazing. Like 1920 Chicago, that would be awesome. That would be fun. Maybe not so much the Revolutionary Paris. That would be pretty terrible, but you know.
Yeah, probably. That's 1800s.
But you could go through any of these doors and go to any time period in any city or any world that you want and experience that. And I think that'd be pretty cool because you could have a margarita in so many different places.
If they serve margaritas there.
Take your own margarita mix.
All right. This makes me think I need to read some more books with better environments because, you know, fantasy medieval, it does not really appealing to go back there.
Mm-mm.
There's not much for it. I mean, some of the ones, they sound like they have cool cities and they go to these pubs and stuff, but
it's really all war and not awesome. I was thinking the same thing. I had a little bit of a hard time with this, trying to find
bathrooms aren't a thing.
You're like going back to Kilimanjaro all over again.
I only have 4.
So I have 2 honorable mentions then.
Okay.
I have the night circus. It wouldn't be too bad to live in a magical circus. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Traveling around all the time.
Yes. And then everything in the circus is magic. It's pretty awesome.
Circus folk.
And then the London's in a darker shade of magic.
I think that one, I debated on it for a second. I guess Red London would be the best.
Yes, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I could see that.
And considering London is like my number 1 city that I want to visit.
It's pretty fantastic.
Yeah. I think that would be amazing. But I would not drink a margarita in London. Maybe a gin and tonic.
This isn't like places you would drink a margarita. It's just places that you want to be at and live and like, or you would read another story and you just want to be immersed in it, whether actually or like, hey, give me another book in this universe.
I would totally be immersed in a magical circus.
Well, yeah. My honorable mention, I guess, would be Red Rising, but it comes with a big caveat because like they have the classist system and there's like the really, really repressed. So obviously I don't want to be them, but then it's just like, well, if I'm a gold, then I'm just repressing other people and that just makes me feel bad. But it would still be kind of cool because it's still space exploration and their technology and all kinds of stuff. You can get all kinds of like physical augmentations and craziness. But that was kind of a maybe not, because there's also a crap ton of war and death and stuff. Maybe like centuries before.
So it's funny because I did a Google search for like popular books that you would want to, that with amazing settings. And I pulled up a link and one of them was Hunger Games. And I was like, no, I'm good. Definitely don't want to live in the Hunger Games. That would be terrible.
To read from the world might be cool, but not to be in.
There's most books that we read, I don't want to live there.
No.
I don't want to visit there. It doesn't sound like something that would be fun. Maybe different parts of it, but for the majority of it.
Man, I need to read a fun like pirate story.
So that's what I kept thinking, like, oh, what's a really good book that I've read that like is fun and on the beach or like in some exotic place that's so awesome. And I'm like, I don't think I've ever read a book like that.
No. Kings of Paradise, they're like in the tropics, but it's a dark book. I mean, I guess in the main world, I forgot what the main city is in the tropics, before crap hits the fan and before Ruka comes to it, yeah, it'd be cool, really cool if we lived there, but not after.
Yeah.
There's not enough fun pirate fantasy.
I'm sure there is. We just haven't read it.
We need more of that. I'm thinking of what are books that have been adapted to movies that I haven't read. Peter Pan. So these are some of our reads that have a good setting that we find have a good vibe, whether you want to return there, physically, or you would just take another book in this universe. If you could ask the author to go and expand from it, just because you want to be back in that world, that universe. That's what we were listing here. What are some of yours? Because I kind of had a hard time finding some because I read a lot of more dark and medieval fantasy, but curious as to what some of yours are so that maybe we could check them out as well and have yourself a margarita, but not this kind.